you start the call, you like what I typically do is like, if I don't know how to say their name, I usually am like, Trada? And they'll be like, or they'll correct me. And I'm like, and I just kind of laugh it off like, I'm so sorry. I thought it was like, I was talking to somebody earlier today, right? And I was like, Layla, and she's like, it's Lila. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Miss Lila, and it like, it just breaks them down a little bit. Like they like, I don't know, you just want to make them feel comfortable as soon as possible. So like that one, is like, it's a good example of like just asking. Like I typically am like, hey, so and so, like, or I just ask their name, hey, like Chase, like right when they answer, like hello, Chase. And then they'll be like, yes. And I'm like, hey, this is just Johnny. I was giving you a quick call back here in regards to the request you sent in on Facebook for the new state regulated life insurance programs and whatever. And you listed your favorite hobby as this. Is that right? And I start laughing with them. And so like the whole goal in the first like seconds of the call is to like act kind of confused in a way and really curious. Like, hey, Johnny? Yeah, this is just Johnny. I was giving you a quick call back here in regards to the request you sent in on Facebook for the new state regulated life insurance programs in Arizona. And you listed your wife, and then I like speed it up a little bit. So I typically like when I say like new state regulated life insurance programs, I typically like go through that pretty quick. Like, hey, this is just Johnny. I was giving you a quick call back in regards to the and then I slow down a little bit, and then I speed up the new state regulated life insurance programs that you made on Facebook, and so on and so forth. So let's role play. I want to hear you guys, because it's easy to conceptualize, but like not many people can actually do it. And like do like I didn't know until I actually started listening to my calls. And you kind of have to like, now it's second nature, but like it at first it's just going to be like, it's kind of weird and like very different than what we're used to in terms of the way we kind of talk. So who wants to role play? Kind of putting you guys on the spot. Stuff to think through is like when you're calling, very like confused, but also like certain that like they filled it out. Like, hey, I'm giving you a call back here, if that makes sense. So do you guys have any questions on that, like in terms of like when you're calling people? All right, cool. So so when I get an objection on the first, like right at the start about like, hey, I can't afford this, or like, oh, it's too expensive. Like literally when I just get on the call, like, hey, you filled this out, and then they'll be like, oh, it's too expensive, or I can't afford it, or I probably can't afford it. You want to like reinforce and like give them trust and like know that we can help them and like let them know that. So what I do is like, hey, when like even at the beginning of the call, I'll use this right here. Okay? Because the whole thing about this right here is to establish trust and get on their side of the table. You like, it's to get from it being like you fighting them to like get the sale, to like getting on their side and helping them out and help them make a decision that's going to be best for them. When you can really do that, your closing rate's going to go astronomically high. And this right here, this is like massive. So what I do is like, some people use this at the beginning. I like to use it right here because it just flows really well. So right when I get the why, I have them nailed down. I say, okay, and just so you know, Miss Sally, I like specialize with working with people on very low and like fixed incomes, right? Social Security, disability, just like lower incomes like that. Would you say you're kind of in that spot too? And they'll be like, yes. Like, oh my gosh, yes, I am. And I'm like, okay, great. And between you and me, that's probably why they got you over to me, because it's actually my job to get you the most affordable plans here in Arizona, but most importantly, actually look at all the carriers in the U.S. to find you the best rate in. And speaking of affordability, right? Like what's kind of a good, kind of comfortable number for you monthly, right? Like even in a tight month, is that like $150 or 100 or 75 or 200 or 250? Like what's kind of a good, kind of comfortable number for you monthly, even in a tight month? And then you pause and you wait for them to like give an answer, because like what I do is I typically pitch this like as the middle number. So whatever number they give, 100, 200, 300, 400, $20, $50, whatever it is, you're like, okay, perfect. So like that totally makes sense. And once you get that number, it's super easy to kind of go into what you're going to quote them. Cause then like I build value around that, or I'm able to like shift their beliefs a little bit on like, understand, like set the expectations right, so when I present they know what they're gonna get. Because like if they're saying like $10 a month, like you gotta like overcome the objection right there, because you're not gonna give them $10 a month. Like it's not worth it, and they're not gonna value it at all. So that's how I'm able to have like average premiums of typically about like $90 to $100 a month. So just like kind of going through this, like today somebody was like, oh, $200 a month would be no problem. And so I'm like, okay. I didn't close him. He wasn't serious. Like I didn't do a good job of like fact finding and like being present with him, but it is what it is, right? So this is where you really try to figure out what their budget is. And the psychology of like going down then up is that they're going to think of a higher number than they typically would. It's like 150, 175, 200 or 250. Like what's kind of a good kind of comfortable number for you? And you want to like give them permission, like even if they don't say like one of those numbers, like perfect, like totally free. Like, cause some people will be like clock out and be like, oh, those are all too expensive. Okay. Like what for you, right? Like what's a good kind of comfortable number for you, right? Like even in a tight month, what's that for you? And then you share with them, because like, what happens is here is like, this is where a lot of the trust is being built. You already like moved to their side, like, cause you're like between you and me, and like kind of letting them in on a little something between you and me. That's probably why they got you over to me. Cause I specialize in working with people on very like fixed incomes, and it's actually my job to like shop around and find the best possible plan. Now, speaking of affordability, and then you go in and find that budget that they have. And then whatever they say, I typically say, okay, that honestly, that's probably like, that's where most of our clients are sitting too. Anywhere between like that $75 to $100. Right here is like, you guys will learn kind of along the way, like it's the Goldilocks method. You don't want to push too hard, because then they're just going to, it's going to trigger resistance, and they're just going to get off the call and they're not going to trust you anymore. But like, if you don't push hard enough, there's like premiums you're leaving on the table. So like, and there's like the more value that they may see. So it's like, it's a fine line between like pushing too hard and like not enough. If they're like dead set on like $50 a month, then I'm like, all right, perfect. And then I kind of just keep moving on. At least I understand where their headspace is at. So $25 a month, I need to show something a little bit more inexpensive, but I have to do a better job of building value on value on value on value on value on what this is actually going to do. And I keep reiterating over and over and over again from here. So like, that's when going into the next part is like going over the features and benefits of your policy. This is what it's going to do. This is like, as opposed to this or whatever. And like, this is what I also say. So if they're like $25 a month, typically no. Okay, they've probably seen term 100, like people are advertising 100K for like $12 a month. Colonial Penn, $9.95, whatever it is, right? So I like to overcome those before, if like I sense that that's what they've shopped around, they've looked around. I like to overcome it. So there's a few different plans, right? So there's term. What's nice about that is it's cheap, right? But okay, this is exactly what I say. So if they're like $25 a month, I'm like, okay, have you ever gotten life insurance before? Have you gotten like term or whole, like, have you ever had insurance? And they're like, oh yeah. And then I figure out what they had. If they said no, Awesome. Have you kind of been looking around? And they'll be like, you want to get that too, because then you can kind of see what they've gotten before. It helps you close better. Now, what I say is, term is awesome. And I'll like, term is great because it's cheap, but it's only cheap for a little bit, right? And so what happens is over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, like all of a sudden the rate just keeps going up astronomically over and over. And especially you being on a fixed income, sounds like you just want to actually have something on the other side that like whole life, where it's permanent, the rate's never going to change. I mean, the coverage will always stay the same. I mean, it's not going to be volatile like that, especially with you being on a fixed income. You want to lock it in now while it's the cheapest, but also where it like stays the same for the rest of your life. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? And they'll say yes. Okay, perfect. So like whole life is a little bit more expensive. However, you're locking this in for the rest of your life. So say you live till 121 years old, you're going to still be paying the same amount every single month after that. So that's just one point. I have 4 other points. So they're like, oh my gosh, like this, you just want to keep stacking that value over and over, and like what practically that looks like for them. So then I go, so it's actually going to pay out to your beneficiary, and I say their name. It's going to pay out to Teresa within 24 hours so she can have funds on hand. So what's awesome is that within 24 hours, they're either going to direct deposit the money into her bank account. So I use like this like very very explicit verbiage like that they like can see and picture in their head. They're going to either deposit the money straight into her bank account within 24 hours, or they're going to ship the check via USPS within 24 hours. They're going to actually ship it overnight within 24 hours so she can have funds on hand. Do you feel like that'd be beneficial? Yes. Okay, cool. So now they have both. Now this actually builds cash value every single year as well. So if you're ever in a tight spot later down the line, you would have access to these funds, kind of like a savings account. Because some people are like, oh, I might as well save it. Well, you just overcame that objection. And then most importantly, there's going to be immediate coverage with absolutely no waiting periods. Does that does that make sense to you? And they'll say yes or no. So the reason why that's super important, I'm honestly surprised that we're able to get this for you, but this would pay out right away instead of having to wait 3, 4, sometimes even 5 years to actually pay out to your family. So like if you say if you're to get like, if they said like, oh, I went with Globe, I went with Colonial like before, I'd be like, so if you had that like Colonial policy or like Globe or I mean whoever else, right? They would actually make you wait 2 years before that actually pays out. This would pay out right away. So say God forbid something happens, 3 days from now, right? Because none of us know the exact time or hour, but let's say something were to happen, your family's going to get that money right away without any waiting periods. And then when I present, they're already seeing like, dude, this is a no-brainer. Plus, on top of that, then I go into the next part, which is the think about it. Miss Sally, I've been doing this long enough to know that when somebody says like, I want to think about it, it just typically means the numbers are just a little too high. Okay, so if that's the case, can you just let me know and we can try to find another solution for your coverage? There's no hard feelings there. And just give them an easy way out. So that's really how I kind of overcome it. So where it's like, I build trust, I'm on their side. If it's too expensive, the whole goal is for them to tell you like, okay, that's too expensive. All right, cool, let's work it out. Because the end goal, exactly. And then the end goal is to not get a no. So even if you get a $30 a month policy, it's still a policy on the books. So, and all those little ones add up. Highest to lowest. So what I do is whatever. So when I go into it, when I already got all there, I say, okay. So I'm going to share with you the max offer. Now, I don't even recommend this. And it's like honestly pretty expensive. It's outside of your budget, but we can definitely take a look at it if you'd like. Now, again, I crossed that out on my side, but I've made the mistake in the past of not sharing the max offer that somebody does qualify. So I just want to share all the options that you do qualify for. Now, Great Western's going to offer you 500 or 50,000 for like $500 a month. Now, again, that's why I crossed it out on my side. Now, most of our clients are going in between these next 3 numbers. Now, the first one, it's higher. So this pause. first one I present is higher. Then the one that is in their budget is the middle. I don't know what it is. Seems like 90% of our clients are going with this one. Boom. And then I present the basic plan as that other one. Yes, because my close is I go through the whole think about it thing, and then I say, now from those three, kind of four options that I shared with you there, which would you feel most comfortable with leaving behind for Teresa? Go ahead and circle that one. And then, yeah, because then it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things that it's like, it's a less of a commitment to say it, like to circle it. Like all you want is a small commitment. Perfect. Now, which one did you circle?